Cars, bikes, and coffee at the Honda Museum at the Honda headquarters in Torrance, California happens the third Sunday of every other month. This was the first one, and if every one is going to be as big as this one, it is a huge party, and you must go if you're anywhere in the California area. The museum has a lot of classic Honda cars in it. You kind of get to see how they went from cute and little to big and normal size as you walk through the museum. And of course, they also have some of their other Honda offerings as well, including some of the most classic and legendary Honda motorcycles, starting with the small ones and moving up. You kind of see this small to big trend in the cars as well. Some of the original Honda Civics were tiny, and in this case, you see the motorcycles started out little, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The original Honda Goldwing is one of the big touring classics that just kept getting bigger and more functional over the years. They've got a CBX in there, the sort of suitcase touring package version of the CBX, and then the granddaddy, big boss rhino of them all, the Rune. And there are off-road bikes as well as, I can't believe they put this in the museum, but they actually have a three-wheeled ATV in there as well. This one looks like it's got tires big enough to float. And then, of course, the Honda racing history is so legendary that they had to stack it onto two levels here to fit it all in there. You can see Joe Campbell's bike there at the bottom, and a lot of other famous on and off-road vehicles. And here you see the Monster Energy Supercross trophy. And if you want coffee, of course, you can't have cars and coffee without coffee. So they've got a coffee shop and a merch shop as well. But the real show is out in the parking lot. Everybody within 100 miles brought their Hondas here. And there's a part of the parking lot where they had a show where you could kind of exhibit your car. And then the rest of the parking lot was a lot of cool Hondas as well, where people were just parking like regular folks. It was lined up for about a mile to get in here. I came in on an e-bike, so I'd recommend that. But just walking around the parking lot, you see unbelievable displays of beautiful things that you just, I don't think could see anywhere else except maybe a motorcycle museum, or maybe if you went to a classic collector bike show. That was one of the big ones. But just walking around, seeing regular guy bikes that they rode in on that look as nice as this was awesome. And all kinds of Honda cars are represented. Not just cars, but the fastest minivan in the world is here as well. And if you're a guy like me that just likes looking at shiny things, there's shiny, fast cars all over the place that have been customized. You'll see something that doesn't even look like it should exist in the real world. This little tiny mini Honda convertible cruising around. And then the tuner guys are there. So if you want to get ideas and you have a hot rod car, this is a great place to just walk around. And if you like spoilers, this is Spoiler Central. So if you're a spoiler guy, spoiler alert, then there's a spoiler everywhere, and you can walk around and pick the best one for your car if you're not sure which kind of spoiler you want to spoil whatever spoilers spoil. There you go. And even the humble CRV is a classic in the right context. So this is the off-road CRV somebody brought in, and this one looks like Grandma put it in the garage and never took it out since whatever the 80s, whenever this was new. But this guy's even got the sticker on the window that tells you how much it cost back in the day. The only thing I would say is minivans weren't very well represented. This is the only other minivan I saw, but it is pretty awesome. So if there's only going to be two minivans, I like it being the supercharged turbo minivan and then the boom lowrider minivan. And there's only one Honda truck here. That's one place where I never understood why Honda never made a truck. I think they've got the Ridgeline, if you can call that a truck, but this one's got the spoiler on it for you spoiler fans. There's one more spoiler, and it's got all the hydraulics in the back, and they just went full silly with this build, but it is beautiful, shiny. And there's the cockpit, right-hand drive, like a proper Japanese car. And being here in person, you don't really understand how tiny the original Honda Civic was until you see it parked around a bunch of normal-sized cars. The original Hondas were tiny, so it's neat to see that live. And if you want to buy a Honda, here's a classic Honda that I'm sure is going to sell really fast because it's so super awesome. But there are definitely Hondas for sale there, too, if you're looking for a classic. And then here is the lowest Honda. This guy went super full lowrider at this Hawaiian Honda. And then here's some yellow cars. I don't know exactly what these are, but you guys probably are yelling at me for not knowing what they are. Everybody was taking pictures of them, the past and future yellow cars. And then out in the regular guy parking, you can see the Honda clubs showed up in big time. This is what the S2000 club was there, I guess, with just row after row after row of these cars. So you get a great idea of what kind of custom stuff you could put on your car just by walking around here and looking at all the different variants of the same car that you have. Being here just made me realize no matter what kind of Honda people had, they love their cars, and everybody considers their car a classic, and it's certainly valuable to them. There's a 250 Ruckus that I believe is a classic, the big Ruckus that came out for a few years. And then Honda's also got their new lineup out there for all to see. I really like those little bikes, the Monkey and the other one next to it. And then they kind of go from little to large. Don't have all the Hondas on display, but they give you a good sampling of their lineup of bikes. And then you can also get to see the four-wheelers as well, the ATV. And then there's a guy riding a bike with a skeleton on the back. So you get the idea. Every kind of Honda you've ever wanted to see is here. And if you've got one and you want to get ideas about what you can do to customize it, there's people to talk to. And that's the best part, is community. No matter what kind of Honda you have. Like here, for example, here's the Honda Insight Hybrid people, the first generation. So you might think, well, this car wasn't really a great success. You know, it was an early hybrid. Does anybody even still have one of those? The answer is yes, there's a ton of them. And what I like about them is this was the only hybrid that you could get that you could also get with a 5-speed transmission. So you could shift gears in your hybrid. You can't do that in a Prius. So if you're anywhere in the area, or even if you're far away, this only happens 6 times a year. I'll put a link to the website where they have the dates on it and all the instructions and information and address and everything so that you can go there. But I highly recommend it. They even had the suitcase e-bike there on display, which I'd recommend taking a bicycle or e-bike in there if you don't have a Honda to display. I ended up taking my Rave Bullet there, my e-bike, and I was able to go past the mile-long line of cars and get right to the front row and park and get in there an hour before everybody else. So if you've got a bike in there, but if you've got a car to show, you're going to have to wait in that line.